Well, I'm out on the revolt today, and it's a very unusual day. It's December, it's dry, and it's mild. And that's very uncommon for winter in South Wales. Normally if it's dry, it's freezing cold, and if it's mild, it's wet and windy. I mean, it is windy today, but it's not wet yet. Anyway, I hope I'm not boring you. I seem to start off videos talking about what the weather's like. But I suppose it's just because I talk about what's on my mind, really. And what's on my mind today is racing. Cycle racing appears to be in decline. Entry levels are quite low. I mean, a lot of interest in women cycling, and yet teams are struggling, and it's a shame because cycle racing is magnificent, and I can say that with authority because that's what I did for many years, and it was one of the best things ever. It changed my life really as a youngster, directionless. It gave me a purpose, and on top of that it was incredible fun. The people have raced as long as they've been around. People started walking, they raced each other. People built boats, they raced each other. People built aeroplanes, they raced each other. It's deep in the human psyche, racing. People made cars, they raced each other. And I was obsessed with motor racing. As a young boy, I was obsessed with motor racing. It's all I wanted to do. But I didn't come from a wealthy family. But it was my dream one day. And then, when I started high school at 13, I felt I'd outgrown my rally chopper, and I wanted what we referred to then as a racer. Drop handlebar bike. And that's what my parents gave me that Christmas, and it was a bike called an Armstrong. I don't know who made it, but it was about as basic as you could get. I think it was made of gas pipe. And a couple of months after that, a friend of my brother's came over to the house, and he dropped his bike on the grass the way he always did, and he told us he'd been racing. And that sparked my interest straight away. Racing, yes. There's a club, and you race against each other. What do you need? A bike. Oh, well, that's all right, I've got one of them. Right, I want to go racing. And I went the following week. And I turned up on my Armstrong in a pair of tennis shorts and a t-shirt. And the thing is, nobody looked down on me. They welcomed me, gave me advice, told me to get cycling shorts because otherwise it was going to hurt, and things like that. But nobody mocked me or looked down on me with my Armstrong 10 speed, and I raced. And after a while, I started getting to the front of the pack and leading races, and finishing first, second or third every now and then, and the bug bit. And then I decided I needed another bike. I have to say, at the time, I got a second-hand bike, couldn't afford a new one, but it didn't really make much difference because all bikes were much of a muchness then. I've mentioned that before in previous videos. You know, you had your basic bike, but even the pros were riding 531, Reynolds 531 tubing frames, and over the years things have just got more and more expensive, more and more technology. And the other thing that's happened is that over the years, driven by the sort of neoliberal system, we have a situation where the rich people think that they can buy advantage, and that's the dream they've been sold by the system, and that's why they always want more and more and more. It's not about whether they can spend the money or not, it's about having more than you, because then they can buy advantage over you. The health service is in a mess. It's okay, I've got money, I'll go private. Public transport's in a mess. It's okay, I've got money, I'll buy a Range Rover. And unfortunately, the same thing has happened in sport. Started in professional sport. The ones with the most money win. The sponsors want wins, and so you just buy whatever advantage you can get to win everything. The one with the money gets the results. Now, there was a time when that would have been considered a hollow victory, but even that's changed. They don't care anymore. A win is a win. Goes on the table, on the record books as a win, and that's all that counts. And then it trickles down. Trickles down from professional sport to amateur sport, and the ones in amateur sport who want to win everything spend more money, and then the others realise they can't compete unless they spend more money, until we get to a situation where it gets too expensive and the people at the bottom start to drop out, and there's a big barrier to entry. Because people look at it and go, well, I can't afford to do that. And then the entry list gets smaller and smaller and smaller. The sport doesn't die down completely, but it becomes very small and elitist, and the real talented people are locked out. And I think that's what's happening in cycling. Talking to people who go to a club race with the schoolboys. I say schoolboys because that's what it was called when I was racing. I don't mean to be sexist, and funny enough, we did have girls racing in the schoolboys. But anyway, that aside. But there's people going to these club races for youngsters, and they're seeing people there with 12,000, £14,000 bikes, and the youngsters are put off. The ones whose parents can't afford a £12,000 bike and a skin suit and all of the other bits and pieces, and so the entries drop, and unfortunately those talented riders who may have turned pro are locked out. I mean, there's a good reason that football is the most popular sport in Britain, and that really is down to exposure, because all you need is a leather ball. The kids can go and have a kick around in the street or in the park. Schools put on football because it doesn't require huge amounts of money. Most parks have a football field marked out, and even if they don't, the kids will innovate with a couple of jumpers for goal, but it's accessible to everyone. And when I was a youngster, although you had nothing like the exposure you would to football, you could race bikes, because pretty much every child, I grew up in South Africa, maybe different in other countries. When I grew up, pretty much everybody had a bike. It was our transport, so we got to school and we raced each other home from school. But we could take the same bike that we went to school on and go and race on the weekend. So what I'm suggesting we need, and this is an idea that I've come up with from my motor racing days, we need a single make series. We need a series for the youngsters. I don't know, I looked at something like a Trek Himonda ALL4, 1,200 quid, even if you want to go for a 5, but less than £2,000. And that's the bike, and everybody has to ride. Everybody has to ride with the jersey that we supply. They can sew sponsor names on it if they want. That's what they ride with. No skin suits, no aero wheels, even down to the tyres, I think. Choose a reasonable tyre. Right, that's what everybody's got to race on. And that way we can take away some of the barrier to entry. I mean, I'd like things to be more even across the cycling world, but that's not going to happen. But at least this way, you get people out racing. And if they're good, they'll get noticed, and then they'll get a sponsor to start throwing money at it. But it gets them in the game. And it really is better for the talent spotters as well, because everybody riding the same equipment, then you know exactly how much faster he is than the next competitor. Because if we don't do something, I think the sport will die out. And I don't know how to do it. Perhaps if you've got any ideas, you can drop them in the comments. But I'm putting it out there. And I'm going to try. But I'm putting it out there so that anybody else watching might pick up that as an idea and run with it. And let's keep our sport alive. So let's try and drop down the bar so that it makes it easier for people to enter the game. So we'd have a single maker bike, and that is all you need for your season's racing. Put on events, whether it be a time trial, long race, short race, doesn't matter. That's the bike you ride. No carbon wheels or titanium saddle rails, none of that. just the way it came out of the shop.